The sport of fishing. The past years, it's grown immensely. And like any other sport, it provides us with stars and legends. Hello, I'm Grayson Tobler, your host. In the weeks to come, we're going to be bringing you an in-depth profile of both the men and women in the profession. How did they get started? What's been their high points as well as their low points? What effect did their mom, their dad, husband and wife have on their career? We're going to get up close and personal with the stars and legends of fishing. We're at the finishing stages here at Ranger Boat Company in Flippin, Arkansas. And you know, there's two names synonymous with Ranger, Forrest and Nina Wood. Today, we're going to be able to spend a little time with them. Forrest, I know after working on the Bull Shoals Dam yourself in 1951, shortly after that, you and Nina and the daughters started your own business of guiding here on the White River. What were the early years like?
The early years were kind of tough, Grayson, like they are for just about everybody. Prior to the dam being built by the Corps of Engineers here, this was just strictly farming country and raised cotton and corn and so forth. And then after the dam was built, it created this trout fishery below Bull Shoals Dam that lasts for about 100 miles. And it made a great fishery. The food chain is good and the fish grow fast and so forth. And of course, the lake fishing was tremendous in the early days. And incidentally, the fishing in Bull Shoals Lake was good, and then it tapered off, and then it's got good again. In the last 3 years, been the best it's ever been, which is an interesting point from a fisheries management standpoint, why it got better. But anyway, your original question was, what were things like? It enabled me to get a job guiding fishermen. I did that 14 years, had a guide license, and took people fishing on the lake and on the river, and that suited me because I like to fish real good. People might think that all the guide does is fish. It really isn't that, because we built a service and furnished lunches and soda pop, and as the business grew and we got more people and I could take care of myself, we had other people to help guide, and in order to keep the best guides, of course, we had to have a job the year around for them. And actually, I got into the general contracting business and eventually wound up building boats for that reason, just trying to keep everybody busy. And then the boats that we used on the river were 20-foot flat-bottom John boats, of course, far cry from the bass boats that you and I are familiar with today. But that actually was the beginning for us here. And I started guiding in 1953. I believe the dam was finished in 52, I think, and so I started guiding in 53. We were motivated. I don't know if it was entirely by hunger or not, but at least we wanted to do a good job because we wanted the business, we wanted people to come back and see us. So my daughters and Nina have joked that they have fried enough chicken to build another dam on White River, and they have. And you and I were talking a little bit ago, we'd get up in the morning and load up pickups and 2 or 3 boats on a trailer and fishermen and go to several different areas, either White River, Buffalo River, or Crooked Creek, and put fishermen in, and then Nina and the girls would have to make arrangements to get the cars moved to the bottom end and come and pick us up at the end of the day. And that night, then I'd spend a lot of my time on the telephone arranging trips for the next day then or in the future. And so it made an interesting life, and I don't regret it a bit. It was very educational. We met people from all walks of life, made lifelong friends that still come by to visit us at the plant, and it was an important part of my life, and I'm glad that I got to do it.
Forrest, I know in the 60s there was a lot in store for you and Nina. Why don't you kind of reminisce on that a little bit?
Oh, there's a lot of things happened in the 60s. A lot of things happened every year, really, Grayson, but the 60s were particularly eventful for us. It was the beginning wanted built that we thought we could make a little money on. Then in '68, we started building some boats, fiberglass fishing boats. We had used wooden john boats on the river and then covered them with fiberglass and so forth. In 1968, we built what we call a lake boat, and we had to pick out a name for it. And since I was a fan of the Texas Rangers and the Army Rangers, and since I was president of the three-person company, I got to pick the name, and Ranger was it, and it turned out to be a good name. It's strong and says a lot, I believe. But we started building boats in '68, still running float trips, and like we had been talking about there, and it turned out our timing was good. The bass fishing industry was in its infancy but ready to grow. We had some knowledge about the kind of product that fishermen needed and what they wanted, and our success was, I believe, Grayson, mainly on producing a product that filled a need or a desire for the fishermen in this country, and the quality of the people associated with us that built a quality product and gave service to our customers after the sale. And that would have been 20 years ago that we started doing that. And it was tough as could be in the beginning. You asked what it was like for us. The '60s were very tough, and then the early '70s were too. We kind of got started with 3 people building boats, and then we moved to the location we are in now in January 1 of '69 in a wooden frame building, 10,000 square feet. Had 3 employees in the beginning, and I guess we had 5 or 6 about the 1st of January of '69. And things started going pretty good for us, but then in May of 1971, the place caught on fire and burned down, and we didn't have any insurance, so that kind of got '71 started all sort of bad for us. But we scurried around and rebuilt a building with the people that were building boats for us. We had 60 employees by the 4th of May in 1971. We kept all of those people on the payroll and used them to rebuild the building and rebuild our molds in a friend's workshop that he loaned us to rebuild molds in. And 71 had some other tough breaks for the Wood family. 2 weeks after the fire, the man who ran our boat dock over here at the float trip operation had a stroke and died. And then in December of that year, the 14th of December, a tornado came along and blew her roof off her house and the doors and windows out and their barn away, and about a quarter of a mile of walnut trees down the drive to our house, but it didn't blow any of us away. And then we just lit a candle and sat around in our living room there, and it was a dismal picture, I know. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I saw a flashlight coming across the field because it couldn't get down the road. And 2 men that work at our plant, one of them's name's Raymond Crosby and the other Darvin Smith, had walked to come to see about us, and with their little flashlight, which says a lot for the kind of people they are and the kind of people that live around here and so forth. And it really made an impression on me to think somebody cared enough to walk at 4 o'clock in the morning to come to my house to see if we was all right. As it turned out, the little tornado wasn't over a quarter of a mile wide, and it just centered our house. And the thing, that was, we had a fire in May of '71, and then a dear friend and a business associate died 2 weeks later, and then the tornado came along in December. And it was kind of a tough year for us. We'd lost some stuff and so forth, but it helped me to realize that I wasn't much concerned about the dollars that we had lost. The fact that no one had lost their life in the fire or in the tornado was a significant thing there. And it helped me realize that my priorities were kind of like I felt like everybody's ought to be there. That money's necessary to get along, but it isn't the most important thing. When you get right down to it, your family is the most important thing to you, and then after that, your friends, and it spreads out.
Well, without Forrest and Nina, we wouldn't even be fishing tournaments right now. We wouldn't be able to follow the professional trail. They got us started in professional fishing by being our first sponsor. In fact, when I won the Classic, he was my only sponsor at that time. And he's the one that kept us going. I can't say that just for me, because there's several of us out there doing it right now that couldn't be doing it without Forrest and Nina Wood. They've contributed more to professional fishing than anybody. There's no doubt about it. And everybody sings their praises because of this. They're not just the best boat builders in the world. They, as far as I'm concerned, are the best people in the world. We talk about the Ranger team, but they don't like that theme, and really it doesn't sound that good. Everybody has a team. We're called a Ranger family. That's the way they like it, and that's the way I feel about the people. They're kind of like a family.
Forrest, what's been your management styles and philosophies through the years?
Real simple, Grayson. I believe that you need to give a person an obligation to do a job, give him the authority to do it with. And assuming, of course, you've hired the right people that are capable of doing the job. But getting people to work's always been easy for me. I like people, and I'm able to get along with them well. And I have a background that has taught me how to do a lot of different things, so I've never had much problem figuring out how to do things. And selling, I think, just kind of comes natural to me. I firmly believe that to be successful in selling, you have to have a product that fills a need or a desire. Then you've got to advertise it and let people know you have it. Then you have to treat your customers right so that they'll come back and buy from you. And I believe we've been quite successful in doing that, because people often write me letters and say we've owned 6 or 7 or 10 different Ranger boats. And we get quite a few testimonial letters that certainly makes us feel like we've done some things right. And by sharing some of the accolades with our people through the years, I've managed to make them feel like they're part of the organization, part of the family. And they just have a great deal of pride in the product and in doing a job well. And I believe, if I understand myself properly, too, I managed to satisfy my ego quite a long while ago. And that enabled me to allow other people that worked with me to do things to get some credit for jobs well done and so forth. And a good illustration, I believe, of my management style day before yesterday. As you know, we'd been doing some dirt work out on the farm there, and we were running a Bermuda grass sprigger, and one of the farm hands hit a rock and upset it on a hillside. And I saw it from a distance, so I went and got a chain and I flagged a bulldozer to come that way, and I drove up and I could see he was upset because his thing had turned over, and I had a cooler in the back of my pickup, and I took a Pepsi out and said, "It's Pepsi time, isn't it, Doyle?" and pitched him the Pepsi. And he was telling the foreman later on, said, "Forrest wasn't mad at me for turning that over, he just came over and gave me a Pepsi." Well, I would have been mad if he'd done it carelessly or so forth, but you just, those kind of things, I believe, is what makes a good manager. A good manager is one that you never know when he's managed, in my opinion. I think, to sum up, a good manager is one that you don't know when he's managing. And I believe that through the years I've been able to fix some things without anybody knowing I was fixing things. And I mean to improve them too. I don't mean like fix is used sometimes. But just getting along with people is the answer to it, really. In selling and in internal public relations too. Internal public relations in a company the size of this with 500 or 600 people is as important as public relations to the public.
Forrest, why did you sell Ranger boats?
Well, I did about 2 years of objective thinking, Grayson, and then one day it came to me very vividly. Are you familiar with the old country song about the gambler? There's a time to hold 'em and a time to fold 'em. I felt like it was time to fold 'em. But based on what I think was some objective thinking and on my personal priorities, likes and dislikes, Nina and I are the kind of people that can't rest unless things are exactly like we think we ought to be. And we have both spent our entire adult life working hard to get someplace, enjoying what we were doing, but missing some things that are also important to us, like time with our family. Particularly me. Nina was able to spend a lot of time with her family when our kids were at home and so forth. But I've spent most of my weekends someplace besides home, and we have some grandkids and so forth, and you know, it's important to spend some time with their family. There's a lot of things that I wanted to do that I hadn't got to, like pheasant hunting and deer hunting and turkey hunting in Texas, and some time in Alaska to look that place over. And I felt like that I'd never do all of those things, and maybe never do them all anyway, but I felt like as long as we were still responsible for the decisions for this many people, that we'd never take off the time to do some of those things. And I read something just a short while back that said life is not a dress rehearsal.
Nina, you've been married to Forrest for 37 years. Tell us something about the man.
Grayson Forrest is one of the most lovable people in the world, I'm sure, but he has been a wonderful family man as well as successful businessman, and that's pretty hard to come by, seems like, anymore. And he has devoted as much time as he felt like he needed to his family, and still been successful in whatever he has undertaken to do, and I think that's pretty unique about Forrest.
Nina, looking through the past years, what's been some of the higher points?
That's a pretty difficult question, but being able to succeed in what we undertake has been very important to us, but we've also been able to be happy in doing that. And that's something we're very proud to be able to say.
Right. Nina, how heavily has the family been involved with Ranger?
Well, from the time we started building boats, Grayson, we had all of our family helped, from answering the telephone, taking orders, or whatever, but all of our daughters have worked there at one time. 2 of them still work there. 2 of our son-in-laws employed there. I have a sister and a brother-in-law that works there, and Forrest's brother Mickey, of course, is president of the company now, and we've always been able to work side by side, and if somebody needed help, they were always willing to pitch in and help it. Whether it was an 8-hour day or a 24-hour day, we were always willing to pick up someone else's load, and I think that's what makes for a successful company.
We've decided that Forrest Wood has been such a supporter of the fishing industry and the boating industry through the years. This is not a quick thing that Forrest Wood's decided to have a tournament. This is something we decided to have for him, in honor of him, for all of the work that he's put in through the years for all of us in this industry. The fishermen love Forrest as well. He's always so eager to help us in any kind of a project that we have. This particular tournament is in honor of the Epilepsy Foundation. All the money goes to the Epilepsy Foundation, as Forrest has requested, but he's also backed many, many other tournaments, and most of the fishermen remember that. They just remember all the good things he's done. Mr. Wood always donates the boat for this tournament, and it's a Ranger 350 boat. It's a beautiful boat, and that boat will go to the man that catches the biggest bass today. So naturally the fishermen are eager to win that, but it's always because of his generosity that we're able to do this.
Oftentimes people have to die to have anything named in their honor, but it certainly is a thrill, and it came about kind of backhandedly, actually. We had been working with the Shriners for a benefit tournament for the Burn Center for several years, and the same group that had been doing that came to me one day and said, you've done so much for the industry, we'd like to do something for you. And I said, well, I honor that does my ego good, but why don't we do something for somebody if we're going to have a tournament in my honor? And they were agreeable to that, and so I asked me what charity I'd like to have a tournament for, and so I picked the Epilepsy Foundation, who have been grateful, and it's a thrill to be able to do something for them. The name Ranger is respected across the nation, and I take a great amount of thrill and pride in that, actually. We can't sponsor everybody that would be good for a Ranger or deserves to be sponsored. So you just kind of got to make judgment calls as you go along and do as many as you can. The character is one of the big things, and of course it has to be a person in addition to having that has ability to present themselves well and to fish enough to get some recognition, of course. Have a job that gives them time to fish and be visible and so forth.
I wouldn't be fishing if it wasn't for Forrest Wood. I started tournament fishing about 4 or 5 years ago, and with Forrest's help, I was able to do that. And when I think of bass tournaments, I think of Forrest Wood. He's the one that really started it back in the late 60s. I drew a guy from Texas in a BASS tournament a couple weeks ago, Ronnie Young. And Ronnie didn't have a lot of time spent with his father growing up, and he said today, when he has a real tough decision to make, he thinks about what Forrest Wood would do, and that's what he does.
That's our first show. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. Join us each week here for the stars and legends of fishing.
Work with the wind and the shadows, then you'll find ain't no better life for a man to lead. Don't need nothing but a line and some quiet time. Dreaming this dream comes easy to me, 'cause I'm living for fishing. And if I had my way, I'd be fishing for a living. I'd be the one that got away from the sounds of the city and the same old day-to-day. Gone from a job that's killing me, just give